And a lot of people, a lot of comfort that maybe we're getting signals that we're not recognizing, and someday we're all going to cross that other side, and we'll be together again.
Or maybe you are getting a signal and you think, oh, it's just a coincidence, and whatever.
Right.
But it is comforting to think that there is still that connection.
Right, and we talk a lot about that. I'll ask, anybody feel like they've gotten any signals from their loved one? And people are more inclined to talk about that now. 17 years ago, we didn't talk about this. This was not something that anybody felt comfortable with, and you kept those thoughts to yourself because you were afraid that people were going to think you were crazy.
Net over you.
Right, exactly. But it became more mainstream over the last several years with people like John Edward. He had a TV show.
Oh, I know, and
others.
And people are really starting to experience different kinds of things now.
Right. And I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't have some of those things myself.
I know. I've had some experiences like that too, and it really. And there's always those people that say it's just a coincidence, but I feel otherwise, and that's all that matters.
And I say, if it gave you some comfort, then go with it.
Yeah.
And why second guess it? Just accept it, and if it feels good,
it must
then let
be
it,
really
allow it.
Rewarding.
Oh, it's tremendously rewarding. I meet the most amazing people. The resilience of the human spirit is just astounding. When you hear some of the stories of the people and what they have endured, it's really remarkable that they could be standing at all. But again, if they have people supporting them, that makes all the difference. So, but what I say to people all the time is, I can see the light at the end of your tunnel, and I know that right now you can't, but it's my job to help guide you through it so that you have some hope in your life and you have some sense of purpose and meaning. And introducing them to other people who are also on that journey, that really helps
and
to not go it alone.
And even forming other friendships.
Oh, beautiful friendships have developed. Lifelong friendships have developed.
Born out of maybe a
Born
tragedy.
out of this, yes, absolutely. But I really believe that the people who come through the door are people who love very deeply, who've had the capacity to have a very strong attachment and a very strong love. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to come through that door. Why would you bother? Especially some of the summer evenings are so beautiful. Wouldn't you rather be down the street having an ice cream than or a pizza? But we do have pizza at our evening groups, and many times they walk down the street and go for ice cream after groups. So.
That's good.
And even the Friday afternoon group, after group, they go down to Village Pizza and talk some more. So, they really bond. There's a beautiful, beautiful bonding that takes place.
It's such an intimate experience to be witness to.
It's a privilege. It's a sacred privilege. And I'm blessed to be there. And I thank everyone who has the courage to call and to come through the door. I know how hard that is.
So now, when you started 17 years ago, you would average maybe how many calls?
Oh gosh, I don't know. The nature of the calls has changed also, I think, because there is more dedication on the part of parishes to help people who are grieving. So many churches have support groups, and there are prayer shawl ministries. In fact, Incarnation Church, they supply us with prayer shawls.
Really?
So yes, Louise Crowley shows up every month with a couple of prayer shawls for me, which are gone usually within a day or two. But,
so now the prayer shawls, what prayer shawl ministry do you see?
A lot of churches have a prayer shawl ministry, and what the ladies do is they gather together, they pray over the yarn, they pray that the people who will receive the shawl will be comforted. And the prayers vary depending on the group that's doing it, yes. But it's amazing. You talked about magic before, but the people who receive these prayer shawls, I have heard some beautiful stories of how it's really provided comfort.
Them.
Yes. especially when the
What
power was out.
Wonderful thing.
When the power was out in October and no one had heat, the prayer shawls came in really handy. But people were saying, I wrapped that prayer shawl around me and it felt so good. And
so the shawls are at the center?
I have some
and then
at
do you
the
give
center.
Some are given to people?
Yes. And I just have them out. I don't always have a big supply, but as supplies last, then we have prayer shawls. But because there are more groups out there than there had been, I'm not getting as many calls from people who are dealing with losses that maybe were expected. And if they're able to get the right kind of support from their family and from their parish community, well, maybe they won't need to be calling me or come to a support group. But the people who are calling tend to feel that their loss was very tragic,
They're
traumatic.
Really traumatized.
And they can be traumatized when it's the person who's closest to you, like a spouse or a child, so that's automatically going to feel very traumatic.
Different. Yeah.
Right, or if it's a sudden loss. So when we have no time, no opportunity to prepare for this, then those are also the people who are traumatized. And then certainly people who've lost a loved one to suicide, as I have. My brother died from suicide. That was 28 years ago. And and I let people know. I want everybody to know that so that families and individuals are not afraid to call and don't feel ashamed or stigmatized by that.
By the suicide.
Sure, yeah. So
you really have experienced every phase or every possible instance.
Just when you think you've experienced it all, then there's something new that happened. That's the nature of life. And an example of that was September 11th when the towers fell and the phone was ringing and the TV stations were calling asking me, how do we cope with this? How do we tell the children? And I said, I don't have an outline for this. We've never been through this before. I need to think about it. I want to be very careful, very thoughtful, and I'll call you back when I feel like I've come up with something that might be workable and responsible. So, life is constantly evolving, the world is evolving, so there are all kinds of new situations that can present themselves at any moment.
I just love the idea of those prayer shawls.
Oh, they're wonderful.
And what a great idea to be able, if anybody's watching, to call, and is there something that, they could do for your center?
Oh, well, we're looking for ideas to be able to continue our mission so that we can become more financially independent. That would be wonderful. And we need raffle prizes for the golf tournament, and if people want to take out ads for the program book, there are all kinds of ways to support us. Donations are always welcome. They're tax deductible. And thank you for asking about that. I really appreciate it.
Well, Karen, it was really, it sounds odd, but it was so wonderful talking to you about grief. And no, seriously.
Well, thank you.
It's just very comforting to know that this center is available to all of us.
That's right.
And it has someone like you working there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So thank you once again. And that is the Safe Place to Grieve Foundation. What do you want to?
Safe Place to Grieve Foundation, located at 109 Main Street in Old Weathersfield. And it's also called the DeSopo Resource Center, sponsored by the DeSopo family, who's been so beautifully generous, and we thank them from the bottom of our hearts.
Right.
If it weren't for them, then the thousands of people who have called and who have come in over the years would not have had that support. It really is a
wonderful example
service.
of business giving back to the community.
It's
really,
amazing.
It truly is. And if anyone has the need to call Karen or for working through grief or just helping out, please do. And the number is
860-563-5677.
And you have a
our website. It's www. And it's a sentence, safeplacetogrievefoundation.org.
.org. And the email is
griefweb@aol.com. But if you go on the website, there's a link.
Or just Google in Safe Place to Grieve
Foundation. Well,
Foundation.
there's another old website out there that we haven't been able to get rid of.
Oh, no, domain
So,
name?
yeah, don't
Oh,
look at that one. So
okay.
if you
Put Weathersfield in there.
safeplacetogrievefoundation.org is the one that I would hope you find. Or call me. I like to get calls. I like
right.
to talk on the phone, and come on in and have a cup of coffee.
All right. Karen, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege.
Good night.
Good night.